truly believe we're witnessing a pivotal moment in automotive history, that being the heavy duty Ranger. It is such an important car in so many ways, but is it a Pandora's box that really should be opened? Now, I've got to say, first of all, I really do love this space for driving, touring, building cars, as you can see behind me, to the point where it keeps me awake at night. And this was one of those moments. So the heavy duty Ranger has been brought out, and the sheer numbers and what this car means to the industry, it did. It kept me awake one night, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up, wrote an article on our Facebook page, and to date, it's had nearly 700,000 views and nearly 1,000 comments in just over 24 hours. It just exploded. And yes, I know it's a hot topic, and yes, that is partly the reason I wrote it, because part of our business is, staying topical and being on the ball with those things. But it just shows the power of what this model represents. Like, that is just insane numbers. And there's quite a few reasons that this is such a historical moment in automotive history, I think. And why I don't know is it's a really good one. No matter whether you love or hate the car, whether you love or hate Fords, it doesn't matter. Brand aside, we'll get into that later. The sheer numbers of this vehicle are staggering. So I have the transcript of what I actually wrote on Facebook, and I'm just going to elaborate on that further. And there's a lot of big points in here, and then a couple of questions that people brought up that I didn't touch on, which I wasn't aware of either. And there's still a lot of speculation on these things, as the car hasn't, fully been released. But we'll firstly go through the specs, because the specs are what make this car. Not everyone wants a Ford Ranger, but they definitely what this represents. Twin diff locks, as per 70 Series Land Cruiser. That's about one of the only vehicles in Australia that comes with twin diff locks now. The Ineos Grenadier is probably the exception to the rule there. Heavy duty suspension, diffs, chassis and transfer, which was one of the major eye-openers for me. Like, they really, really re-engineered the vehicle, I would say, with going to that much length and that much trouble to even strengthen the chassis. I think that was, we haven't seen what that means yet, but even to say it, I think that's a big call. 33-inch tyres from factory in an all-terrain, like a decent all-terrain. Safari snorkel from factory. 130 litre fuel tank, which is exactly the same size as a 79 series. They are really picking on that Land Cruiser, I think. Steel front bumper, which is, that was gone years and years and years ago. So it's so cool to see that back. And it makes sense on an off-road vehicle, like it really does. Good underbody protection. I can only say good because they show that it's on there. We don't know how good that is yet, but it's something. A wider vehicle and better ground clearance. So that's your lift kit that you'd normally install. Potentially it already comes with that if that's as high as you want it to be. One of the biggest things, I think, and most exciting things for me, from a touring perspective, having little plugs you can pull out of the dash where you can screw in device holders for your iPhone, your iPad. For fleet, it'll be computers and dongles and things like that. It just shows how much trouble they've gone to make this thing fit for purpose. So, every vehicle I've had, I've screwed into the dash. Currently using the quad lock system. I mean, who doesn't use a quad lock system? So Ford's thought about that as well, which is, it's pretty crazy. In-cab payload scales, which is, a bit of a technology thing that the least technology they can have in a vehicle like this, the better. But that one, I think, would actually be useful if it works well. And then in theory, you can also measure your tow ball download, which, yes, in theory, if it works accurately, it's useful. I don't know how that will go. The big numbers though, and why everyone was so blown away, are the weights. So 4.5 tonne GVM, 4.5 tonne tow, and total combined or gross combined mass of 8 tonne is something we've never seen in a domestic ute, something you don't even get in the 1500 class. You do need a truck license and get into that 2500 class of American utes to get that. So those three numbers there is what's blown everyone away. If you had have just launched a vehicle with those top few things and all those accessories without those crazy GVMs, I think people would have got excited. It's broken the internet because of those numbers. So I initially put all this into ChatGPT. I did write it quite sarcastically, and I was proud of it. I enjoy, really having a comment on these things because I love this space, like I said at the start. So we'll read a bit of it. So when I said we're witnessing automotive history, I do really mean it. in the most explosive way possible, because you can bet your last dollar that this thing is about to spark a full-blown payload and towing's arms race. If the other brands don't pull something magic out of their hat soon, this super duper Danger Ranger, sorry, I got carried away, is just going to wipe the floor with every other brand as far as fleet sales first in an XL form. There's no Ranger on the market now that hasn't probably have a GVM upgrade to do what the fleets need it to do. I know that because I have seen it firsthand. They come in and they get GVM upgraded to the point where some of them get chassis stiffened, some of them get diff bracing. Like, it's quite an extensive program to make that vehicle fit for purpose. So to have that come from the factory and from an industry, standpoint, we haven't confirmed yet, but every other Ranger has 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty. For a business sense, that can be up to 4.5 tonne and tow 4.5 tonne, fully warranted, because there is a question mark over, you get a vehicle GVM upgraded, then you've lost your warranty. There's no other vehicle that comes close to that in that size, space, and potentially at the lower price that they're talking about, but we'll get into that soon. So that's what I mean with an arms race of weights. Like, if other manufacturers don't come out with something just as good, if not better, no one's going to buy, or especially a fleet program, is going to buy a vehicle with specs that are so much less. Like, you're talking a tonne less and a tonne less of towing. Why would you? You'd buy a Ranger, right? Righto, so what are its main competition? Or is there any competition for this vehicle? So we could say American 1500s being the closest in price, probably, but they don't have a GVM. Their GVM's shocking. Their payload is worse than most of the domestic utes. You're talking, off the top of my head, around 800 kilos. I'm pretty sure you can put 800 kilos in the back of a Hilux. Yes, you can definitely tow 4.5 tonne with the 1500s, and that's where their attraction is. And they have that longer wheelbase to probably do it a lot more comfortably and a lot nicer. So if you purely just wanted something to tow, something really heavy, and not put any accessories on the vehicle, it's probably a viable choice. You also need to want to have a petrol engine, which some people do, I understand that. And if you are going to modify that vehicle in any shape or form, you're going down that GVM upgrade path and potentially losing your warranty. I don't know, that's still a grey area, right? So the 2500s obviously will crush the Ranger for payload, but you need a light truck license and you need $170,000 to start with. So that's not even in the same ballpark either. The domestic utes, D-Max, the very frightened Triton, or the unbreakable timing chain rattling overpriced and underspec Hilux. And yes, I do love Toyotas, but I like having a bit of fun too, right? Just don't even come close. And even if you GVM upgrade them, none of them can tow 4.5 tonne, and probably rightly shouldn't. 70 series Land Cruiser, overpriced, underspec, even in V8 form, pretty lethargic. I know, I've owned 2 of them. So I'm not about just hanging shit on the Ranger or any other vehicle here. I'll hang shit on the vehicles that I own as well. At the end of the day, they're just machines, right? And the $300,000 series Land Cruiser, that's a joke. Look, I mean that tongue-in-cheek kind of way. They are very expensive wagon. And I just threw the wagon in there because it represents any other wagon. They're not even close in terms of payload, towing, and they're all quite expensive still, right? At least the Ranger money, probably, being a 300 series up to $180,000, starting at about $120,000, I think. So it's still a lot of money, right? Now, everything about this super duper heavy do-it-all Ranger Danger sounds like a dream come true as far as what it's capable of and what it comes with, until you remember that with a car license, you could potentially, and that's arguably the problem too, we'll talk about the car license thing in a minute. You could potentially go to your local Ford dealership, buy the brand new heavy duty, super doopy, crazy dangerous Ranger, the Super Duty that is, and as a standard vehicle with one driver in it, a full tank of fuel, let's say it's 2,600 kilos. Like, it's going to be a bit heavier than a standard Ranger with wheels and heavy duty this and that. So let's call it 2,600, and I only am speculating here. None of this of what I'm saying today is any of it potentially fact, just my opinion, don't forget. So you do that, and then you go to Coates Hire, and you need, I don't know, a little roller or an excavator or a bobcat. which you can also hire with basically no license, so that's also risky. And off you go. So you're towing 4.5 tonne down the highway at 110 k's an hour potentially. Is that safe? Like, I don't know. I've never done it. Like, can a 2.6 tonne vehicle safely tow 4.5 tonne with someone that has no experience in doing that at all? Is that a good idea? And yes, you could get a vehicle like a 1500 that could tow 4.5 tonne on a car license, but this Ranger is going to bring that ability to the masses like nothing ever before, and that's the Pandora's box, because not only are Ford doing it, if it's everything it says it is, and it is on a car license, you can bet your bottom dollar that every other manufacturer will eventually have to do it, or they won't be in any of the fleet sales market. So they'll be forced to do something here. I think if Toyota does it, it'll be at least double the price, because that's just generally what Toyota does. It may be better though. Toyota does have a good reputation for reliability, but that's where it's at for me. I don't know as the 4.5 tonne tow is a great idea. I think the 4.5 tonne GVM I think is realistic in that, and look, even it's on the very high side. The Ranger does inherently have a slightly longer wheelbase than just about any other domestic ute. I think any other actually, and arguably longer than the 70 series. So if there was going to be a ute to do it in that 4.5 tonne GVM, I think that's realistic. I just think they should have kept it, in my opinion, at 3,500 kilos in towing. I think that's probably a safe level. And look, most people that have an opinion on this and throw it out there would probably say 3 tonnes a safe limit behind a domestic ute, and I would tend to agree with that as well. But the upper limit for 3,500 kilos makes way more sense than 4,500 does. I can't wait to potentially try one day at 4.5 tonne behind it. We might be all wrong, right? But it just doesn't seem right, that amount of weight behind that. So the next thing probably is worth noting is the aftermarket won't leave this car alone. If not, it will spark them on more. Like, this is a car that is brand new to market, so there'll be bull bars, there'll be side steps, there'll be trays and canopies, obviously. Every possible accessory you can imagine will be like, they'll be trying to get a piece of this pie because it will be so popular. What about GVM upgrades? Now, you've got a car that's already at 4.5 tonne GVM. If you take it then into a truck class, if you go over that boundary again, I'm pretty sure once you're over 4.5 tonne GVM, you potentially could put 37-inch tyres on this thing legally, and the cops can't do a thing about it, because as a heavy duty at the moment, in the heavy duty class, you can put 37-inch tyres on it because it is in that MB2, and I think this is right anyway. I don't think you need engineering. It's just a whole nother class of, what you can do as far as modifying a vehicle. So is there that option to even go to, say, 4510? So yes, you've got to have a light truck license, but then all of a sudden you've got a Ranger on 37s that's legal. That's an option. I just thought about that in my head. That'd be cool. 37s on a Ranger, right? It'd look good, be completely useless, but hey, that's what people build cars for sometimes, not to be useful, but just to look good. So look, there's another side to that too. Do we go from 4,500 to, the latest and greatest GVM upgrade for the latest Ranger is 5.5 tonne? Like, it's ridiculous, but time will tell, right? And 5.5 tonne on 37s, and maybe, as I wrote, twin jet ski holders on the roof, because we all know a Ranger driver loves a good jet ski, and hey, power to them. They're a pretty cool thing, right? So we'll see what the aftermarket does with it. No doubt it'll probably be more extreme than what it needs to be, but that's the aftermarket, and to be honest, I love it. I love mucking around with four drives, new and old, and I'm into the aftermarket thing like you wouldn't believe. I can't leave anything standard. So don't forget, I'm not picking on anyone here, like that's not the point of this, but these are kind of the facts and my opinion on a few things. The price is also one of those really big numbers. I did walk into a Ford dealership to try and nail a price down to get some info here, because I am bloody curious about this car. And what I got told was as low as $80,000, which I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. I think it's going to be below 100 though. And at below 100 somewhere, it's going to knock everything out of the water. It's cheap. That being an XL base Povo spec, but a lot of the market is probably potentially coming from a 70 series, and a top line GXL 70 series Land Cruiser is way more povo than an XL Ranger, so I don't think there's an issue there. So the XL Ranger is designed for fleet sales. I think they're going to sell a lot to someone like myself that wants to use one for towing and touring, because stepping out of a GXL Land Cruiser into an XL Ranger feels like you're going from 1982 into 2025 anyway. Like, it's just a huge difference. Plenty of tech. The only things a 70 series owner truly wants is power steering, air conditioning, an FM radio. No, I'm joking about that. Power windows, cruise control. I couldn't give two shits what the interior looks like. It's going to be better than a 70 series. I think that's a fairly big chunk of their market, and where the XL is probably going to make more sense than what they think. Then the XLT will kind of be irrelevant. If you're going to tow big loads and you want to take something off-road, the base model is usually the best vehicle to buy, I believe. So this article I wrote, I really enjoyed writing, as I said at the start, and it sparked a lot of comments, and a lot of the comments across, about the whole thing, there's been a real theme. And if you are a Ranger owner, sit down, get a glass of water and try and stay calm, because there's a lot of comments about really poor Ranger reliability. I'm sure we've all been on the highway and seen a Ranger on a tilt tray. And again, I'm not trying to pick on anyone, although I'm sure people will get upset. I'm sorry about that. You can call me one of them Land Cruiser 79 owner wankers in the comments if you want. That's fine. But it's a thing, like, let's be honest. So they have had some questionable reliability, first with the 5-cylinder turbo diesel. They've had gearbox issues. The 10-speed gearbox that is going to be fitted to this thing has had its own issues in other vehicles. I do know personally a good friend of mine that owns a transmission shop. It does a lot of 10-speed work. So that has been the biggest question mark beside this vehicle. Have they fixed any of these issues with reliability? Because that aside, it's a fantastic vehicle already. There's probably the nicest dual cab on the market as far as comfort, and being as much like a car as you can be, but still be able to do all these truck-like things, and now even more so that it is going to actually be doing truck-like things, right? So the reliability is a problem. The other real questionable thing is, do you have to now go and buy a jet ski if you buy one? Look, sorry, I just had to go there because there's plenty of jet ski jokes getting around. And if I do buy one, I'll probably feel forced to get two, I think, because you've got all that GVM and that towing capability. You probably get a double-decker jet ski trailer. Actually, you could get one for the whole family, and like your extended family, you probably tow 8 of them. So sorry again for Ranger owners, but that's just something we've had plenty of comments on. So you're currently tuned into Smart Touring Systems, which is predominantly a travel channel, and it is our main channel. However, we do have another one called STS Garage, where we do build 4 drives. We've done a 40 series, a 60 series, a 79 series, and then we've jumped the fence now and gone to a Nissan Patrol GQ coil cab. Now, as with most of these projects, they get off to a rough start sometimes and can stay pretty difficult all the way through. And to celebrate that, we've brought out a new shirt called Bad Life Choices, because if you're into building cars or just buying them to spend money on them and do up for that touring trip, we all know that sometimes some of these life choices are questionable, and it's about taking a bit of a light-hearted look at that, and we truly do just love designing a cool shirt. So if you can relate to this, head to smarttouringsystems.com.au and grab yourself a shirt. There's a few other designs there too. Now, the aftermarket's been very good at releasing massive GVMs on vehicles in the past of 4495 to stay away from that magic 4,500 kilo number that then brings you into light truck. Well, that's what at least everyone thought, right? Ford's just released a vehicle that says 4,500 kilo GVM. So have they buggered it up? Like, surely, imagine that. They've actually buggered that up. And in Australia, they're going to, the RTAs, the RMS sitting back going, you need a light truck license, right? Now, I did jump on to Google and do some research, and this is only my research, and it could be wrong, but the way I read it is that you need a truck license for anything over 4,500 kilos. So that to me means 4,501 kilo. So why, for all this time, has the aftermarket been doing 4495? it's just questionable, isn't it? So I still don't know the answer to that. I believe they've aimed this vehicle at a car license, because otherwise then it's not that attainable, especially in a fleet sales sort of way. You think all those people out there that have a job where they're driving a fleet vehicle, that don't have a truck license, I'm sure all those companies and big businesses don't want to retrain their whole workforce to go and get a truck license so they can drive, you know, a vehicle that has 1 ton in the back. Like, it doesn't make sense. I'm sure this thing's designed and aimed at people with a car license, but have they mucked up the specs and how they've written it? Because 4,500 is much neater on a promotional sort of scale and in a pamphlet than writing 4495. It just doesn't look as nice, but maybe they buggered it up. That would be like the biggest blunder ever. Right, well, the last thing I'm going to say before I go here is I really want one. I can't help it. I really don't want to want one. I've always stuck with me Land Cruisers and put up with the uncomfortable, the basicness, the fact that you got to spend so much money on them, the fact that I may not have a warranty because it's modified so heavily. But the sheer numbers of this thing make me want it so much. Am I willing to put reliability aside? Am I willing to throw away the insane resale value of a 70 series? I really don't know. Like, I'm finding it hard not to go down that path, because they have crushed it. They really have. Anyway, we'll see what happens, and I'm really curious to see some more specs come out and follow this story very closely. I've enjoyed putting this together, and don't forget, you do only live once, so get out there and hit the tracks and get into that adventure, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. These are only machines, so we can then go and enjoy and do what we love doing. So whether you got a bendy Triton, or you got a timing chain rattling Hilux, or you're one of those wankers like me with the 79 series that spent his whole life savings on it, just make sure you enjoy it and don't take things too seriously. Thanks for watching. I'll get back into this shitbox behind me. See you next time.